Alright. Okay, so just as a forewarning, P.S. Please don't judge if I have some sort of grammatical mistake. Even though I'm an English teacher, I did this kind of late last night, and yeah, there you go. The information's going to be great, and you're going to be so glad that you know this because it really is so helpful. I use it all the time. Okay, so anyway, basically this really is just a tool to make your life so much easier once you get to know how to do this. It's fast. It can, this can be a grading tool that you can use with the Google Forms. And you have to remember the name Flubaroo. That's important. So this word, Flubaroo, really weird word. It's important that you remember the name. Okay, so if you're taking notes, write down the name Flubaroo. You have to remember the name. Okay. So if you go to the website, I mean, it states it pretty simply. It's grading made easy. If you don't have enough time for grading, which is like the understatement of the year, and it has useful measurements on students' performance. So if you ever want to have more data in your computer that's already done for you that you can show for parents, especially if you're keeping track of DSI or you have a core class, like especially if you're doing English, we have core and we have AP, so I like to keep track of that. And this is free, so there you go. It's everything that you want and more. So Flubaroo is something that I found through my online classes that I'm taking right now, and I started using it and I haven't stopped. So basically what it does, it helps you grade online assignments in a single step. You get reporting and analysis on student performance. It emails student scores to you if you want and to them. I don't usually do that stuff, but I can show you how to do it. It was designed by a teacher, so it's really, really, really simple. It doesn't have all these steps that you will never use. It's so fast. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kind of show you a big picture of what it can do, and then I'm going to go through and show you the steps about how to do it step by step, break it down for you. So here's just a demo video that if you go to the website, this person's already set it up. Okay, so this is like the big picture. When you have a quiz already made, this is what the output will look like. So I want to show you what the end result's going to be, and then we'll go back and do it step by step.
In this demo, we will see how combining Five9's leading cloud technology with Salesforce.
Thanks for checking out this short demo of Flubaroo. For this demo, I created a fake assignment using Google Forms and submitted answers myself. All of the submissions were automatically inserted into the associated spreadsheet, shown here. Now that I have all the submissions, I'd like to grade them, which is where Flubaroo comes in. Flubaroo is a script that you can install from the Google Script Gallery. To save time in this demo, I've already pre-installed it. Once installed, you'll see a new menu called Flubaroo at the top with the other menus. Let's select Grade Assignment and see what happens. In step 1, Flubaroo asks me to select a grading option for each question asked, such as if it's worth points, if it should be skipped, or if it identifies a student. Flubaroo will do its best to identify the correct option for you. Once I've correctly selected all grading options, I click Continue. In step 2, Flubaroo asked me to identify which submission should be used as the answer key. Looking through them, I recognize the first one as a submission I made earlier, which I want to use as the answer key. Once selected, I can continue on with the grading. The grading should finish in under a minute. Great, it's done. Now I can click on View Grades to see the results. Note that to record the grades, Flubaroo has created a new, adjacent worksheet called Grades. You can see it down here in the lower left. At the top of this worksheet is a summary of the grading, including the average score. Beneath this are the grades for each submission, including total score expressed in both points and percent, the number of times this particular student made a submission, and of course, the score for each individual question, which in this case is either 1 point or 0 points. Also, for each question, the very last row shows the percent of students who got that question correct. Questions on which less than 60% of students got the right answer are highlighted in orange to alert the teacher. In addition to grading, Flubaroo has other features as well. Flubaroo can also generate a report showing the distribution of grades. You can also email this report to yourself so that you can print it out or share it with others. Plus, Flubaroo can also email each student their own grade, along with an optional message and the answer key if desired. Each student will receive a personalized email with their grades. Thanks for watching. I hope Flubaroo can help you and your class. For more information, please visit flubaroo.com or email feedback@flubaroo.com.
Okay, so that's kind of the big picture and the end result, but there's actually, after I used it a few times, I saw that there's a few things that I learned that kind of came in handy that are not in this, so I'm going to show this to you and then we're going to go through it sort of step by step. Okay, so step one is, you probably all used a Google form before, but if you haven't, that's in here too, so perfect. Alright, so you do have to have a Google account. You have to make one. If you don't have one already, you need to make one, because that's how you're going to get to Google Forms. So it's free. You're going to use it all the time. Once you have one, you're going to use Google Docs.
Gmail account, right?
Yeah, it's just a Gmail account. If you have an old one, they've made it into a Google Drive by now. They've upgraded it for you automatically, so you have one of these. You just need to log back into it. Okay, so Google has taken your Gmail and made it into a Google Drive. So what you're going to do is you're going to go and you're going to find where it says Google Drive, and it's going to have an area that says Create. And you're going to click the button that says Create. And I have mine up over here. And I would click Create. And I have a bunch of other apps on my Google Drive because Google has tons of things you can use now. I mean, like, this is a side note, but like, you can make a floor plan. Like, we read a book called Uprising, and I had my students make a floor plan of the building and where the fire started and stuff. So there's some really cool things you can do with Google. So, you know, another time we can talk about that. But one of the things that I use more than anything is the form. So you would go to Create, and you would start just at making a basic form, and you filled thousands of these out already, because you fill one out already when you fill in your DSI information, you fill these out when you do surveys. I mean, you filled plenty of these out, so this isn't going to be new to you when you see it. So you click Form, and it's going to make an untitled form, and they have cute little, you know, backgrounds, balloons, whatever. I always do the birds one because I like to be naturey. Christmas time, you have gingerbreads, you know, just make it happy. When you give them a quiz, or you can be boring and do the default, whichever kind of teacher you are. Whatever makes you happy. Classic books. Okay, so let's just do Argyle. So the very first step in making a Google form is to just create the form. And you get to choose your background. And then you have to format your form into a quiz, because your form can be anything you want it to be. It can be a survey, it can be a poll for your class, but basically I use it most for just short quizzes. If I want to make one at the end of class and I'm sitting there and I just don't think my students are paying attention as well as I want them to, and I want to have something that I can have graded that I don't have to spend a lot of time on, I'll make one while we're reading, and I'll give it to them right then and in class. And then I'll know that I can grade it through, and it'll take 1 minute to grade, and I'll have the results then. And sometimes I can even tell them at the end of class, all right, I know that this is somewhere that we were struggling, so you need to go back tonight and read this section. Like, I'll know that day before they leave. So that's something really cool about this. You can have instant results. So you have to format your form into a quiz, and we'll do that right now. So, going back to our form, we chose Argyle, so we're gonna give our form a title. And let's just, we'll just call it quiz, pop quiz, whatever you wanna call it. Be as creative as you would like to be, or as boring. Okay, and then you have little sections here, and this little box, you see how it's kind of like a box right here? This is gonna be one question. So, question title is gonna be where you're gonna actually write the question. So, let's see, what is,
I'm just gonna make one.
you know about me?
Yeah.
All right, so what is Molly's favorite animal? Okay, and then it says help text. So here I can put a little side note to students like, this can be where you put a hint like don't forget to use this property, or remember on page so and so and this person was talking to tickled or whatever. So that's where you put like a little hint for the question. And then it has question type, and you have a text answer, so that's where your student would write in like a single word answer. And for Flubaroo, that's really important that if you're going to use text, that when you choose text, you're telling them that you only want them to put in a single word answer. Because when they're going to grade it, it has to be something very specific that they can match an answer key to a single word. So you can't just tell Flubaroo something, it has to be something that it can match an answer key. Alright, so you have to give it something really concise. So text, I want the answer to be Mars, capital M-A-R-S. You can't just say, give me any of these words. No, it has to be just a single word, that's the answer. So if you're going to use text, it's got to be a very specific answer. Flubaroo cannot grade a paragraph text answer. So that's more like an essay question. So you can put those on a Flubaroo quiz, but you're going to tell Flubaroo not to grade that. You're going to have to go back and grade that. And I do that all the time. So I'll tell Flubaroo to grade everything except an essay question. And sometimes I'll put those on there, and those will sometimes be my bonus questions. And the students, if I feel like they put some effort into that, and I see some keywords, that'll be my bonus questions. Multiple choice, that's honestly what I use mostly with Flubaroo. Flubaroo is not what I use for big assessments. Flubaroo is what I use mostly for checking comprehension. Check boxes, if you have things that have more than one answer, and you want to know A, B, and C, you want them to have a different type of answer, and that's when you can use choose from a list, a scale of 1 to 10, a grid answer. There's also a place for them to put a date and time if you want them to. Okay, so let's just do numbers. You can have numbers, yes, you put it in as a text answer, and so the answer would be a specific number. Okay, so let's do a multiple choice. Okay, option 1 will be penguin, and then I'm going to click down here. Option 2, pivot, my dog. Okay, and I'm also going to make this question required, so they cannot submit this without answering this question. So if they try to submit this and they don't answer this question, it'll say, hey, whoa, stop, you need to go back and answer this question. So this is a required question. And I can make this have as many choices as I want. I just keep clicking, going to add options, but I just want to stack through. Okay, so now to my next question, I'm going to go to add item. And here I'll do the same thing. I'll just pick which kind of question I want. Okay, this time I want a text question. So let's make this one be a number question, just like you said. So what is boring favorite number? Okay, now this is a very specific answer. The answer is 8. 8 is my favorite number, without a doubt. Looks like a snowman. You turn on the side, it looks like an infinity symbol. It's the best number. I don't have to put the answer in here, because I know the answer. I'm gonna put the answer in the answer key. Okay, so the question is done. Question is done, it's set, make it required, next question. Let's do one that you have to choose from the list. Okay, so once again, you don't have to even choose your answers now, you're gonna choose your answers later when you go back to grade and you make your grading key. So you're just setting up your questions, you're just making a test. Like when you make a test, you don't make your grading key necessarily like right then, you can go back and do it later, okay? So I'm gonna,
Can you copy paste if you wanted to make an equation or add some?
yeah, you could like copy and paste in these boxes. Oh, yeah,
So
sure.
if we already have a quiz made up, we can copy and paste from that.
Yeah, you couldn't, I don't know any way that you can like take something that's already made and just import it straight in there and have it already formatted, but you could certainly take questions and answers and copy and paste them into the correct fields.
Okay,
You could do that.
okay.
I mean, there could be a way that you could do that, but I don't know. All right, so finally, this is something that sometimes I forget and I have to go back and do first, check, make sure I make all these questions manageable. Okay, one thing you have to remember to do before you give a quiz to your kid is to do another text box, and in question title, just put name, because that means you want a box for them to write their name in, and make sure to make that required. Because you definitely want to have one box where they have their name. In Flubaroo, when it grades, it'll recognize that this is a box that is just where the kid is telling you their name, so it's not going to say, oh, I'm grading this. It is smart enough to know that that's the student's name. I don't know how it does it, but oh, you're fine. Also, if you want to rearrange your questions after you write them, you just drag these boxes when you see the 4 arrows, you just drag them, like if I want the name at the top, I'll just drag it up here. You want the name at the top. Okay, so whenever you're doing a Flubaroo quiz, you can do your short answers. Make sure they're single words. Make sure on your answer key you have them spelled correctly. And tell your students that you want it to be capitalized or not capitalized. That is going to be important.
It's case sensitive?
Yes. So if it's something in history, like this person's name or something, and it needs to be capitalized, you need to tell them that, make a note of it in that hint box. You might want to tell them, hey, be sure to capitalize, this is the person's name. Numbers, it needs to be the exact number. If they mess up, if they put a space between the two, that will mess up the answer key, it will mess up the grading. That's why I tend to do multiple choice in the list, because it's easier. I think it's better for this format personally. Make sure to create a text box for the student's name and be sure to make it required. You can do this, you can Flubaroo the quiz after you make the quiz. So like I was telling you, a lot of times I make the quiz during class and just grade it later. So you don't have to set up the Flubaroo, while you're doing the quiz. You can do this later. You can do this days later. Let the kids take the quiz and then go back and do the Flubaroo part. All you have to do is make sure you're giving them the right kind of quiz. So if you're planning on Flubarooing a quiz that's all the essay questions, then you're going to have to go back and grade it yourself.
So on the text one, when I enter text, how do I go back and put my answer? Mine won't let me put the answer.
I'm going to show you that right now.
Okay.
Alright, so now we're gonna make the key, and that's what you're talking about. So now we're gonna actually Flubaroo the quiz. So all we've done so far is I've showed you how to make a quiz in Google Forms. Now we're gonna actually do the Flubaroo part. Okay, so going back to our quiz, we're ready to do what the kids would do. So go to View Live Form, and what I do is just on my Moodle page, or sometimes I'll just copy and paste this link to a document and put it in my R drive, and I'll just let the kids go to it, and I'll just get them to do it. So
I'm sorry, view what form?
the live form, this is how it would be on the internet. So yeah, you do have to have the internet working. So if the internet's not working that day, then you're not gonna have your quiz.
Don't email me.
Where did you have to go to that? Was there a link from where you were building it?
Yeah, so you go back.
You go to live forms?
Okay, so wherever you built your quiz,
Right.
right here, it says View Live Form.
Okay.
So that's where you go to, View Live Form, right at the top.
Okay, view live form. Nice, thank you.
Okay, and then once you do that, this is where you can copy and paste the link to put on your Moodle page, to put on a Google document to get your kids to go to this live form.
Yeah.
So they don't have to set up an account or anything like that?
No, they don't have to have an account or anything. They can go straight to this link, take the quiz, and then as long as you have one, you'll get all the information. Alright, so, in order for you to test this out, and in order for us to Flubaroo a quiz, we have to have at least 2 responses on a quiz. So, if your whole class has already taken the quiz, and you have way more than 2 responses already, so you can Flubaroo a quiz in no time at all. So, however, for us to Flubaroo one, we're gonna have to make one that's a key, and then we're gonna have to do one that's like a test student, okay? So I'm not to take this quiz twice.
Okay.
I usually do this before I give a quiz anyway, because I like to just make sure it's working. Because I'm just, get paranoid sometimes. So first what I do, what the guy on the video did, he did one as his name. I always just make it key, because I like to know when I go in there to Flubaroo the quiz that this is the key. So I'm gonna put key in the name box, and I'm gonna pick the exact right answer, the one that is going to be the standard that I'm gonna grade everything by. So what is my favorite animal? Dog. Favorite number is 8. Who's the coolest person? Alright. Submit. Okay, then I'm gonna go back and submit another response. Okay, like I said, usually the students will do this, so I'll have lots of responses, but since we don't have a class taking this quiz, I need to have another response in there just so that we can actually have something to grade. So test student. Let's see, we'll do 1 right and 2 wrong so that I know how much percent should I get when it grades. Math people, anybody?
Wait, say that
It's
again?
just,
I have 3 questions, and I'm gonna get,
Get a 33.
and then get, yeah, there you go, okay. So, we'll get this one wrong, we'll get this one right, and we'll get this wrong.
what was that little red star by the answer or answer? Do you remember red star?
These mean that they're required,
Oh, I'm
so they
sorry,
can't
not
skip
all of
those,
them. Okay.
can't skip those questions, and I make them all required.
Okay.
Okay, so why did you make like a test student, just to see if it worked correctly?
Yeah, and if, like, for our purposes right now, if we wanted to Flubaroo it at all, we have to have a test student. Because you can't Flubaroo something without a test student. Because you can't grade anything. What we need to grade.
How does it know the difference in the key and the,
Oh, I'm about to show you.
oh,
So we're gonna do right now. Okay, so now, you have to do it 2 times, because you have to have something to grade. We have to have a key and something to grade, so that's why we did it twice. And also, you can do this when you're checking yours to make sure they work. You have to have a key and either a class to grade or a key and one that you make to grade. Alright, so then what you're gonna do is, you're going to take your form. If you go back now to where your form that you were making, you should be able to go back to that same tab. And now you should see that you have 2 responses. Okay, and then you can go to view responses. And if your class took it, then you should have, 22 responses, or however many students you have. Okay, so I'm gonna go to view responses, and I have a key, and I have a test student, right?
Summary of responses. Nope, that's all.
And then you see at the top, I have my questions, and I have their answers. I also have when they submitted it, have the timestamp in there. And that's exactly what you'll get from your students after they just take a regular Google form quiz before you Flubaroo it. We haven't added Flubaroo at all. Now we're gonna show, like, instead of you having to go through and being like, okay, they got this right, this right, this right, and having to do the math, now Flubaroo's gonna just grade it all for you really fast.
Hey Molly, real quick, mine didn't let me, I didn't have a tab that said show responses. I had a tab that said summary. And when I put summary, it didn't put like graphs and stuff.
Where, like which?
On my, when I went back, my tab that said responses and parentheses had two.
Mhm.
It didn't have a choice to view it, it just had summary.
Okay, whenever, I can show you why I did that. At the bottom, when you made your form,
Was it show links to submit other responses? What is that?
yeah, I can show you how to make
Oh,
sure
I
that it's
missed that.
sending it to the right page.
I missed that, so
You
you're
just
clicking
need to
that
get it.
So
first
there's a
box.
box at the bottom, show link to.
It should be defaulted right, but
Yeah.
since you've used it before, yours might be defaulted, you might have changed your.
Yeah, because I created.
I can help you with that.
Okay.
So
So
we
you
shouldn't
need a
need to
check
worry
mark.
about
Don't
it.
change anything
I used
when
it
you
before,
first do
so
it.
mine.
Do what now?
But there should be a check mark on the very top option, what does that option say?
It says, well, that one,
Take it off.
that's just the default that says, you know, if you can do another quiz straight after you do that one. Okay, anyway, so after you do view responses, you're going to go to, you should have a bar that says insert, okay? And then you're gonna go down to where it says script. So insert, and go down to where it says script. And this is something you're gonna have to do every time. So you might think, okay, this is just a one-time thing, I'll just install this script once, and that's it. But you have to do this every time. You don't just install Flubaroo and you're done. You have to go through, do the script, look it up every single time. That's why I told you that you have to remember this name, Flubaroo.
And where do you put the number when you want to save them? You know, each test will have a number, so you can see it or use it on the next year.
Everything saves automatically to your Google Drive.
So, yeah, right, but the title of the test, you know, like 1.01 or,
Yeah, you can pull it back up based off the title
Yeah,
and use it next year.
yeah,
the
it'll be
title.
saved to your Google Drive. So like if you look right here, here's things that I've made that are saved. Like here's a persuasive essay rubric that I did.
Can you create folders to save stuff?
I'm not sure, I mean, I just have things that save to my drive. I mean, I don't have that much stuff, I guess, that I need folders to. Okay, so anyway, you go to, once you have your information, you go to insert, and you go to script, and then script gallery, you're gonna search for Flubaroo. And try to get that really weird word in your mind. And it's gonna be the second one, this is Flubaroo, free, easy to use tool that allows teachers to grade quickly, blah, blah, blah. And just hit install. This shouldn't take long, it should just take a couple seconds. It'll say authorization required, and you should just hit continue. And then at the bottom, you're basically giving it authorization to use your information from your Google Drive. And I just hit accept, and then it should say install, and you close that out. And now up here on your toolbar, it should now say Flubaroo. So just to go do that one more time.
So you have to do it every time you do a quiz.
You do have to do that every time. Every time you have a new page, new form that you fill out. You can use the same one if you want to add more students to the same one, same quiz, that's fine, you don't have to read Flubaroo, but if you're having a new form and you're opening a new page, then yes, you do have to add Flubaroo again. But like I said, I mean, it took us 20 seconds to add it again. So it's not too bad, just as long as you can remember to go to script, insert script, and remember the name of the thing, then you're fine. So you go to insert, script, type in Flubaroo, it's gonna be the second one, install, make sure to hit continue and accept. And I haven't been able to do that because I kinda got a late start here, but I'll print these slides out if you want, I can put these in your boxes just so like you can have step by step. Then you'll go to Flubaroo, and that's where we are now. Okay, so now we're gonna go to Flubaroo, and we're just gonna say grade assignment. And pretty much, once you get to this point, Flubaroo's gonna take it from here. Okay, so it'll have all our questions on here, and it's gonna say, how many points do you want for each question? And you decide, how many points you want. It only gives you 1 to 5 points, so if you want more points than that, if you want this just to be a huge assignment, then Flubaroo might not be the best option for you. I wanna try to use
Or you
something
can
else.
convert it mathematically.
Well, sure, go ahead.
If you're not an English
If you're an
teacher.
English teacher, then this might have been.
I can show you an algorithm for that, you'll be good.
Okay, yeah. I do that, I do that. Okay, so anyway, I just wanted to do 1 point. Okay, so anyway, and then it has a name for that question. It already said, hey, isn't this the question where you want it to identify the student? And I'm just gonna say, yes, that is that question. I don't want that to have any points. That's the question where I just want that to be where I'm identifying the student. So it already recognized that, but just make sure that it is recognizing that. And also, if I had an essay question on here, I could tell it to skip grading that one because I'm gonna grade that one by hand.
Now, do you need to do the name first next time, or can you choose the order that those questions are in?
You can, I actually pulled the name to the top
Oh, you can
on my
put it-
actual form.
Okay.
But,
Where do
um,
you do that? Where do you pull it to the top?
You can just drag and drop
Right here?
when you're making the
Oh,
form.
when I was making it.
When you're making it.
Or just make sure I put that in first.
Yeah, I mean, either way, is fine. On the form, if you want the name first, that's fine, You can do it last, do it first, wherever you think would be better for your students. All right, so then, once you have all that, just hit continue. Pick the one that you want Flubaroo to use as your key. That's why I go ahead and label my key. I don't label it as my name. I have a student named Molly Elizabeth, and I would rather my answers be there than hers. So I'm going to pick key. And remember, I did a test student, and I already know what I want my test student to get as their percentage. So I'm going to have kind of like a little bit of a thing in my mind, so I know this is going to work. And now it's going to grade. Okay, and it graded that one student. It didn't grade the key because the key is not need to be graded. The key was the key. So the test student, and that is exactly what I wanted my test student to get, because I knew that I only gave that person one right answer. It highlighted these 2 questions because, they didn't get the right answer on them. If I had a bunch of students,
You can just give them that percentage.
they got below 50% on
If
this,
you had
and it'd
100
still be
questions or
highlighted.
200.
And this really comes in handy when you have lots and lots of students in there. When you just have one in there, then you're not gonna have a lot of useful data. But when you have lots of students in there, then this does become really handy. It tells you, okay, well, this part, say Romeo and Juliet, if they're not getting in Act 1, then that might be the part that you need to go back and go over and reteach or go do some remedial education for that part. So it really is pretty helpful. This is what I use Flubaroo for, is for going back and helping me as a teacher know what I need to go back and help my students on. It's probably as useful for me as it is for them. Grading myself even more than it is grading them. And that's it. Once you get done with that, go to Flubaroo. It will give you reports. Reports, these are great. When you're meeting with the parents, you can pull up a class report if a parent wants to know, hey, my student did terrible on this, and I think that he's being graded unfairly. Well, you can say, well, this is a class average on this quiz, and, but you know, this is how everybody else did. Here's a graph of this, and just have everything in line all the day to support you, and support your teaching practices, and it's pretty handy to have. And I think it definitely is just a good nice teacher. And if you would like, this last slide here has just some articles about Flubaroo and how it's being featured in education right now. It's being, you know, highlighted in a lot of places, and being knowledgeable and being able to do it pretty quickly is going to be something that will make you stand out in your field, because it's something that a lot of people are talking about. So.
Can you walk us through what the student does? They just go to that
Sure.
website and there it is?
Yeah.
It just pops up?
All you're gonna do is,
Copy and paste the link.
so all you,
to-
say I wanted to do this quiz that I made, I would copy and paste this,
Right.
and say you use Moodle, you would go and insert a URL, and they would click that, and this is what it's making. I also sometimes copy and paste this to a Word document, and I just save it to the hard drive. So it's just how easy you want it to be, how much time you have.
And all they do is click on the link and it's there.
It's there.
Okay.
And the information goes straight to your Google Drive. They don't have to have any kind of anything. They just have to take it and input the right information.